Hello there. In today's podcast, welcome back to the I Am Changing podcast. In today's podcast episode, we're going to talk about, are you a slave to your to-do list? And I'm going to provide you with suggestions of how to diffuse that ticking time bomb experience that we have when we go into overwhelm looking at all of the things that we have to do. And so I start with this opening question: are you a slave to your to-do list? And there was once a time when I started my week trolling through pages and pages of things that I had to do, or I thought I had to do. And yet the reality was that when I attempted to gauge the enormity of that list, I instantly became overwhelmed. The panic would set in, and I'd lose my focus because my brain had neurologically switched into that defense based survival program. Each time I looked at that to do list, I became reactive and I would emotionally dysregulate. Does that resonate for you? Are you the same? Being neurodivergent, I'm going to put my hand up and say I am experiencing all of the ADHD tendencies of inattention. When I look at the big to do list of tasks, I still unravel every time. But these days, I use my ADHD as my superpower, and I have a strategic plan of what I want to achieve for the year ahead. And for each and every goal, there's a master list of all of the actions that need to be checked off. And that might sound anal, but for me, it identifies the major sections of work to be completed. And they're not pages and pages of lists. For the most part, it's mind mapping, just so all the dot points, all the key words that will then trigger, oh, yes, I've got to do this sequence of work, or I have to do that sequence of work, or I have to do this thing or that thing. And so now my planning, it's nearly all mind maps or dot points so that I can see how each task actually flows from one to the next. I can see the stepping stones. I can see and allow myself to feel how the flow is going to pan out. And that enables me to look down upon the outstanding work and assess, where can I batch? Where can I pause and concentrate on a big ticket item? Where am I in control? And so the beauty of the bulk of my work these days is that not many tasks are new. And as an ex detective and an auditor, I jump with glee. And I know that sounds a little sad, but the beauty of repetition means that I'm then in a space to just simply refine the productivity of the task at hand. When we overcome the hurdle of learning what has to be done, we can feel like we've achieved something great. And we then get the chance to repeat the process. And that second attempt, that task can feel less hard and less overwhelming. This is because you're becoming familiar. And here's the gift of repetition: you get to create and implement the mindset of the rinse and repeat. And our confidence grows and your productivity starts to naturally increase. What's more important is that you're then creating mental energy to consider what's next on the list of things to be done. And we're creating space inside your head and your heart to become creative for something new. When you can see the big picture of your strategic plan and how all the little tasks and actions feed into the bigger picture, you're also creating a new scope or reality of vision. You can more readily identify exactly what has to be done, and then you can allocate a reasonable amount of time to complete each task. Essentially, I've come to learn and to love that the guidance provided by a master to-do list, because now I can chunk it down in a way that my brain can process without being overwhelmed by the big picture. I now understand the price that my nervous system pays when I don't walk away from being overwhelmed from that first glance of the to do list. And so here are my suggestions to maximize your productivity and smash out your things to be done. Number one, get some free guidance. If you're in school, you're likely to be guided by teachers who provide you with a rubric of what's required to achieve the bare minimum or maximum grade. If you're a solopreneur like me, guidance of where to start and what to do is often blurred. And frankly, there is a shit ton of information online via social media outlets. That in itself is overwhelming. So, where could you start? Hopefully, your qualification course has set you up with a basic foundational element. And here's where I found some free golden nuggets: private Facebook groups. Be wary of the hard sell tickets. A good facilitator will drive topic based dialogue within a peer support group, as well as allow frequent sharing of your business links. This promotes both goodwill and a fabulous networking opportunity, so you can lean into who resonates that you want to work with and perhaps ask a question or two before committing to buying. The next thing is your local face to face practitioner network gatherings are fabulous to also make connections. The other freebie is podcasts and finding people that you resonate with the sound of their voice, and YouTube instructional videos, because you know what? It's not hard to find someone with just a little bit more experience or knowledge than you that's sharing tidbits for free via in a video. Number two, ensure you've got a business buddy. And that sounds a little daggy and weird, I know, but you do need someone to bounce ideas off that's perhaps outside your family and get sick to death of you banging on about everything in your business. You need someone to vent to when the tech doesn't work and they get your frustration. You need someone who understands the highs and the lows that you are or are about to experience. You need someone who isn't family or an existing friend who understands the mentalness of running a business, to be there to high five you or pick you up from the corner and tell you to stop sucking on your thumb when things go wrong. Get yourself a work wife who can support your mindset with the occasional reality check in. This person doesn't need to be a work wife, you're female. They just need to be prepared to collaborate with you and support you when required. A business buddy, a work wife can be someone who sits beside you and steps through a process that has caused you overwhelm. And it's something ideally that they have nailed themselves and can talk you through. This is what I did. Better still, do it online and record the session so you're building your own little mini instructions for repeating the process later. Number three, work with a paid coach. I've been in business now for 20 years and I've got 20 years of corporate experience. Yep, there were times when the two overlapped. So I understand the juggle of migrating out into the big world of entrepreneurship on your own. I'm someone who runs paid coaching, so I'm going to be the first to put my hand up to admit I do continue to invest in myself and I receive coaching to this day as well. In my humble opinion, this is the only way we stretch ourselves into the discomfort of learning new things. I choose someone who pushes me just beyond my comfort zone, but I specifically choose them to know that they've actually accomplished what I'm trying to set out to do so that they can catch me and I don't fall over. I don't go splat on the ground. Here's the thing: a good coach will do two things. They'll provide you valuable knowledge and observe you while you digest that information. A good coach is going to listen to you when you wail, your triggers have been activated, and then support you to work through each and every one of them and work through the stress you might be holding in your belief system. Ideally, your chosen coach will provide you with a formula of tasks to get the work done in your own time and space, and they'll share with you techniques and tools to manage your stress trigger response so that you can accomplish the tasks without getting yourself twisted into a pretzel. Number four, eat with frogs. I know that sounds completely ridiculous. But Mark Twain once said, if the first thing that you do each morning is to eat a live frog, you can go through the day with the satisfaction of knowing that it is probably the worst thing that is going to happen to you all day long. It's interesting, right? And it got me thinking when I first read about it on a colleague's page that the worst thing that I have to do in my business is that which I avoid or procrastinate on. This is a great concept, and it reminded me that I can achieve a high vibe manifestation and intentional energy first thing in the morning. So it makes absolute sense to smash out the most loathsome jobs first. And then it's smooth sailing after the dreaded task is done. Best bit, right? You don't have to eat the real frog to be successful. In reality, your frog is your biggest, most important task of the day. It's the one you're most likely to procrastinate on if you don't do something about it. So, eat that frog is another way of saying that if you have two important tasks before you start with the biggest, start with the hardest, start with the most important task first, discipline yourself to begin immediately and then persist until the task is complete before going on to something else. You can take this frog eating concept further by collaborating with like minded colleagues. Sit by side, knuckle in together and get those challenging jobs done, and then come up for air and debrief, share ideas, share what you've learned, share how it feels, because you never know when you're sitting beside the answer you've been working through. Number 5, master one thing at a time. It's so easy to be caught in the have to trap. Marketing on multiple social media platforms is a classic example. The key to progressing and achieving ultimate success, especially as an entrepreneur, is to nail the process of a single task one at a time. When you drag your focus over multiple tasks, your focus becomes diluted and your energy is spread too thin. This causes a dip in your productivity. And it's something, as someone who has a year 12 student as a daughter at the moment, is advising my own child, do one thing at a time, do it well, and enjoy the process of doing it. In conclusion, there's no shortage of methods to get all of the jobs done for your life. The trick with any of them is don't be afraid to tackle the hard things first. The best advice I can share from my own personal experience is to give a technique or a method at least 3 attempts. Don't spend hours failing. Take regular breaks to minimize the amount of frustration that energy can build, and be sure to reach out and seek support or help to overcome the challenges you may face. I hope you've enjoyed this particular read. The blog is over on the website, and I'm returning back to these. I'm not calling it podcasting anymore. They're really a library of resources that I share with clients from time to time. I hope you're well, and I wish you well. Remember, as always, you can choose to change and bloom from within. Give me a shout out or rate a 5-star review if you enjoy this episode.